Hey everybody, just another quick video on the Ayn Thor handheld device. Just wanted to make a couple of quick notes before I jump into it. I'll have timestamps for everything, so if you don't want to hear me, you can fast forward to the next part that you do want to hear. First of all, to my board game audience, this is probably the last Ayn Thor video. I've got a couple of reviews. You can see some of the games floating up on the shelf here that I'm sort of working on in the background, trying to get more games played of some of these games I've only played once or 0 times. And so don't panic. Unless the folks that are interested in this Ayn Thor stuff want me to do another video like this one. And what this one is about is, as you can tell by the title, is how this is, you know, kind of the ultimate Dragon Quest machine. And what I'm going to do is just kind of go through how you can basically play Dragon Quest 1 through 11, all the way even including number 10, and, you know, play them all on this device thanks to the dual screen, thanks to the power of the device and so on, and the emulation for some of the older ones, as well as some bonus ones which will be towards the back end of the video. And I got inspired to do this by another video which I'll link below by a YouTube creator called 𝗗𝗟𝗦𝗟, who did one about a week or 2 weeks ago, I think, before he actually got his Thor, and how it was like the ultimate Pokemon machine. And I don't know, I'm a little old, I guess, but I don't really know anything about Pokemon. Although I used to play Pokemon Go with my son, and that was a long time ago. But oh, if there's a cool Pokemon game that I should try, let me know. I tried Fire plus Red in the original Red, and I bounced off it. So if there's actually like a really, really good one that's like good for new people, let me know, because I'd like to try it, just check it out. So I got inspired by that, and I was like, oh, you know what? I could run every Dragon Quest ever made on this device. And I've been playing, you know, through the JRPGs and stuff over the last year, and also have the new Dragon Quest 1+2 HD 2D remake, which just came out like the other day. I've been playing through that and got that going on here. So I'll go down to the table and I'll talk about, like, you know, which emulator I'm running, or like if it's a Game Hub thing or whatever, what the settings are, what drivers I'm using. I'll just kind of go through it quickly and go through all those. And then we'll have some bonus ones, like some of the spin-offs that are worth mentioning. And I'll explain which ones I'm skipping too. But it's not every Dragon Quest game ever. First of all, because there's not some that haven't been translated yet from Japanese, that were Japanese only. But I will include, you know, fan translations and some of the mods and stuff like that, especially when we talk about stuff like Dragon Quest X and things like that. So anyway, let's just do this, and we'll go down to the table and we'll take a look. Okay, so like I said, I've got a lot of different versions of Dragon Quest, and some action RPGs, Dragon Quest Builders, Monsters, and some mystery dungeon titles. The one that I don't have is the Dragon Quest Heroes. Now, there are 3 Dragon Quest Heroes games that are like based on the slime. So you play with one of the slimes. One of those you can get for Nintendo DS, and I think it's a translated, or there was actually an American release. And there's 2 others that were never translated. And then there's 3 games in that trilogy, and then there's 2 sort of modern Dragon Quest Heroes games, which are only available in the US on PC. And I did try the first one on Game Hub, and it did not work at all. So any of the Dragon Quest Hero games are not going to be featured here. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. I really don't know anything about those games. So first I'm going to go through the main line of games here, and we're going to take a look at Dragon Quest 1. And there's multiple ways to play it. So you could play it, of course, on the original NES, and this would be, of course, using just RetroArch. And I believe I'm either using, I don't know, Nestopia or FCE or something like that. And so you could go back and you could play the original way to do it, and that would be perfectly fine. Or you could play it on the Game Boy. This is the Game Boy Color, actually, and this is using the 𝗗𝗦𝗡 emulator running through RetroArch. And actually, earlier this year, I played through Dragon Quest 1 and 2. Now, in the Game Boy, as well as Super Nintendo, and also more recently on PC and Switch, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are combined into one game here, because Dragon Quest 1 is like an 8-hour game. And so you could, you know, play it this way. And I played through it like this earlier in the year, and it was a lot of fun. I had played Dragon Quest 1 a whole bunch, and the first time I'd ever played through all the way through Dragon Quest 2 was this Game Boy version. Because I don't know, I'm an idiot. I was excited for the new AZ 2D remake, and I wanted to kind of play one of the originals. And as far as I know, The original Dragon Quest II is totally broken and is not very good at all. So you could play through this. Or like I said, you could play through the SNES one. This is the combined Dragon Quest 1 and 2. Here's Dragon Quest 1. This is on the SNES 9X emulator. And I actually kind of like the look of this one. I've never played through any of the SNES ones. But, you know, as I mentioned in the beginning, some of the extra videos maybe I would do if people are interested, I would say would be Metroid or Castlevania. I actually started earlier this year and played through the first 3 games in Metroid in chronological order. So I played through the Game Boy Advanced version of Zero Fusion, which is like a remake of the original Metroid on NES. That was a lot of fun. I'd never played the Game Boy Advance version. And then played the Wii version of Metroid Prime, which is the second one in the chronological lore order. Oh, I died. I'm not even paying attention. Or, and then I played the Nintendo DS Metroid Prime Hunters. And so that was fun. So, I mean, maybe if people want another video on this, or Castlevania. I started playing like the first one, which was like Lament of Innocence, and the first one in the chronological order. And Zelda, the first one is Skyward Sword. So if any folks are interested in seeing videos on those, you can play every game for all of those. Although the Zelda one might get my channel marked. Now finally, we got to the good one here, and this is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake. And this is running in the Eden emulator. Now, I actually got this on Steam and tried running it in the Game Hub, and working with a couple of folks on the Discord over at AYN. It doesn't seem to quite work yet with Game Hub, but I think it's a software bug actually in the game based on everything I've seen, because it's actually an Unreal Engine crash, which I've seen other things happen, or the other people reported, I should say, on the Steam forums and stuff, and they're not running, you know, an AYN Thor, they're just running a regular PC. So maybe there'll be a patch for that game, which will then work with Game Hub, because Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake works with Game Hub, which I'll show you in a minute. But just to give you a sense here, this is with Eden, and let's see, driver manager I am using here. You can maybe see it there. That's the kind of the very common one, the Mesa Turnip 9V2, which is kind of like the default driver I have set up here in Eden. I've got some others installed, you can see there. Now settings wise, this is important. So if I go down here, you're going to see I have here accuracy level set to high, and that's very important. Otherwise it does this weird bloom effect, which it still sometimes does when you set it to high, but not really very often. And the other thing is important to enable use asynchronous shaders, because I think setting it to high here kind of slows it down a little bit. And then if you set the async shaders, it definitely improves the performance. And then finally, the audio output here. Oh, this is very strange. This keeps going back to auto. And I'm going to set it to QDEB there, because that's the way I like it. It seems to run a little bit better with that. So that's the settings there. All right, let's turn this bottom screen off. We don't really need it right now. Scooch that in a little bit. Yeah, so you can see, I forget which, oh yeah, I'm in Remulder. So I'm a little ways into this, I don't know, a couple hours. And you can see I'm inside a building here. It runs pretty well. I'll just go outside and do a little fight here just so you can see. Again, running Eden with some of those settings that I mentioned. And then here's town. So sometimes in town, especially like Tantagel, which is like the first town, it can get like a little bit stuttery, but not bad. And then, like, I mean, again with the water, look at the water. You know, it's not too bad. But let's leave here, and then you can just see a fight. Once in a while, with a fight, when like an enemy does a spell effect or something like that, it will stutter slightly, but then only like the first time it does the spell effect. So it's like loading that cache. Here we go. You can see, I don't know if you can notice there, but it's like a slight little hitch as it goes into the battle animation here. What am I on? Just, oh, I'm on commands. Okay. Yeah. Just let you watch this a minute. Here, let's switch tactics. I'm not gonna worry about dying right now. So it works pretty well. I mean, especially, I'm gonna die. But it's, you know, it works really good, and I'd like to be able to play it with my Steam purchase version because I want cloud saves, but I was like, oh, whatever. And then, So yeah. Okay, so that's all the Dragon Quest I games. We're going to move into Dragon Quest II. I'll just go over those really quickly. So again, here's just Dragon Quest II. This is the original. Nothing really to write home about. Although I have heard from multiple people that this one is just really extra brutal and just you have to grind way too much. And there's some broken things in here and stuff like that. So anyway, that's this one. And then you've got the Game Boy version. This is, again, the same cartridge as Dragon Quest 1 and 2, or they're in the same cartridge. Now, this one I completed earlier in the year. I did have to look up a couple of things, which I hate doing, because either I'm dumb or the game is poorly designed. And I'm going to say game poorly designed in this case. Because there was like two things I had to look up. One was like, you have to look up this exact location of where to like search in this tower. It was annoying. And I was like, okay, well, I think I have to look up an exact spot. So I looked it up. And then there was something else I forget kind of towards the end. That was just very like kind of cryptic and obtuse. But I will say, once I got through those and then I kind of like got to the final dungeon, I thought the final like dungeon and bosses and everything was just really cool. Look at me just dying. And so here's the SNES version. I really like how these SNES versions work. And these are all the same emulators I mentioned before. They're pretty standard stuff. Something about the color palette, maybe it's like a little bit too saturated, I guess. Or maybe it's the shader that I've got on here. But I don't know, I like it. Maybe I'll play through these one day just to say I did it. I actually haven't started Dragon Quest II HD 2D yet because I'm still on part 1. So you can see a little bit of the intro here, just running. So yeah, I couldn't really speak to how well this one runs, but it's the same exact game, engine as part 1. So I assume it's going to work pretty well here. But just to give you kind of a sense of it. It's the same, of course, settings as, what I showed you before in the previous section. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So I don't want to spoil too much of it. So just quick look at Dragon Quest III on the NES, which I've never played and don't really plan to play, especially since I'll mention in a minute. But this just gives you a little sense of it here. Now this is Dragon Quest III on Game Boy Color. This one I did play and finish earlier this year. I thought this was actually quite excellent. I'm blown away by how cool the Game Boy Color version is. This is like the very end of the game. And yeah, so it's really cool. Like I recommend playing through this version even now. I would really highly recommend it. There's just something nice about just the simplicity of it, but it's still there's a lot kind of going on with it. And it's quite epic, for a Game Boy game. It goes on for quite a ways. I didn't really track the hours, but I think it's quite excellent. Now there is a fan translated version of Dragon Quest III for the Super Nintendo, and this looks absolutely gorgeous. This was never around in the US, and so yeah, I feel like one day I may play through this. I think this looks really nice, and I'm just curious, how it will work, and how it'll run, and all the different maybe little leveling abilities and things like that. So I've never played through this at all, but it looks really cool. The next thing will be Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, and this is in GameHub Lite here, so I'm running the Steam version. And I just want to mention that translated Dragon Quest III, that's running the SNES 9X emulator as well. So let's look at the game settings here, because last time I showed this, I had it running on WinLater. I hadn't quite gotten it to work in my last video in GameHub Lite. But I did find a way to get it to work, and me and this other guy were going back and forth on this one and on 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, which still doesn't work. So here is the settings here. So we've got the Proton 10 ARM64X2, game presets for translation. Go down here to the GPU driver, turn up 25.30R5. It's kind of one in the middle of the road there. And pulse for the audio driver, DV or DXVK2621 for the, I guess that's DirectX version. And then for the something Direct 3D version, it's the VKD3D Proton 21.41. And you don't have to pick a translator. And that's it. And so we'll fire this up. Okay, so this is kind of a late game. I think it's New Game Plus or post end game stuff. So you can see even this one here, just the level of detail and everything is a little bit higher even than that Switch version of the 1 and 2. So that's why I wanted to kind of show this one. And you can play this one on the Switch version as well, so it's kind of up to you. Now you see the texture pop in there. You saw how that kind of popped in. That's just going to happen. So it goes away pretty quickly, but this one is there's no stuttering or anything like that at all. See here, watch, it's going to load in everything. And then it'll pop us in there. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of time, but like once that happens, it doesn't happen again. So you'll see, watch, I'll just fight for a little bit. And it is just, there's just a level of smoothness here. The FPS is bouncing between like 40, 50, up to 60 the whole time. So I think some of that is like caching stuff as well, like the first time certain spell effects happen. So what that was the first time that spell effect happened, FPS dropped to like 30, now it's back up to 60. No big deal. So let's just watch another battle. So I should be fighting like the same monsters here roughly. And the color's a little weird because it's like this underworld of, I forget. So watch. Oh, now these are new enemies, so maybe it'll be a little different. That you can see there. A little bit clearer. Yeah. In actual fact, let's zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. Maybe it's a little bit better picture. Yeah, it's a little bit purpley pinky, not because of any bug or anything, it's just the way that this place is. Yeah, you can see I've got Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D loaded up, downloaded from Steam, but just haven't been able to get it to work. There's just always this with an Unreal Engine crash. But you can see the preferred way to play it would be on GameHub. So once hopefully maybe a patch has been applied to this, it'll start working, but I'll finish the game probably by the time that happens. So now we've got Dragon Quest 4, and this is the NES version. This is the last game on the NES. And this is just a huge epic game to be on the NES here. One thing with these, with like the NES ones, the later ones, is you have this black background here in the combat. It's a huge bummer. Because it just doesn't look very good. It's like playing Wizardry from 1980. Yeah, so there's this one, again with the same NES emulators as before. And then the other Dragon Quest 4 that's in here, I think it's the only one that I've got, is the 2DS version. And this is where this device particularly comes in handy, because now you can play the DS and 3DS versions of these games, with no problem. And so it's just really kind of a paradigm shifting. It's a new day, to be able to play all of the games in some of these series. Like I mentioned before, the Metroid one, if you guys want to see a video on that, or the Castlevania ones, or the Zelda ones, and all that stuff. You can really, since it's so powerful, play it on these devices and have the dual screen thing. And this one, though, I will say with this one, let's just show a little combat. I want to just mention one quick note on the emulation side of this. So I'll let you look at that screen for a second. All right, let's get out of here. So we'll go into here, and then we'll bump up to here. Now this is the Melon DS emulator, and I'll have links to this one in particular because there's a special version of it. So one thing to note here, if I look at the settings and I go to video, okay, so I have this OpenGL renderer here. It's set to 4x internal. Now the latest version, which I'll have a link to, seems to have fixed an issue where it was crashing. So for a while I was running this one here at a kind of a software rendered resolution there, and honestly it's really hard to kind of tell the difference, yeah, it's a little sharper, let's just say, but this was constantly crashing, and it didn't matter what game. So I think they figured that out. But if you get a crash, it wasn't frequent, and the less I reduced the 4x to 3x to 2x and so on, the crashes definitely went down, and I far as I know, if I can remember right, it never crashed if I was using the software rendering. And now I've played this a little bit and a little bit more since the patch and some other games, and I haven't seen any crashes either. But if you see a crash and it's bugging you, maybe it's worse on some games, then just switch to the software renderer and you should be good to go there. Now we're back up to the Super Nintendo. This is Dragon Quest V. This is a translated version of the game. And I haven't really played with this. This is kind of very near the beginning, but I just wanted to show that it's here. Playing on the SNES 9X. So you play as a little kid at the beginning of this, and then you also grow up and stuff. Does he let you out of town? Yeah, no, he doesn't yet. Okay, so there's that one. And then, of course, we also have the Dragon Quest V for the DS, which is similar to the one with the 4 I showed you. Same idea with the Melon DS. Just make sure you have latest and so on. I have not played through this one really at all. You can see I'm basically in the same spot because there is a fan translated version of the PS2 version, which is friggin' amazing, especially on here. So one cool thing with this is running the Aether XS SX2 PS2 emulator. Now this also has widescreen hacks in place, so you can see, because normally it would be a 4:3, but there's widescreen hacks for this game. There's widescreen hacks for some of the games. I'll put some links below on how this works here. Let's get to some combat. I don't want to get on the boat yet. And then also HD texture packs. So you can see some really increased, look at those, look at that, look how good that is. That's a PS2 game? What are you talking about? This looks really nice. So yeah, I mean, this may be the best looking Dragon Quest game that there is. I don't know. It just looks really cool. And I really like the story and stuff. I'm a little bit further in this one. I've been playing this kind of off and on all year. And just really impressed by it. I don't understand quite what the monster collecting thing. It's kind of a strange diversion. I'm not sure what that's really about. But it's cool. It's fun. It's just an interesting way to kind of play the game. But yeah, if you're going to play Dragon Quest V, I'd recommend finding the, taking your backup of your ROM and then finding the translation patch and getting that going. But yeah, just a really cool version of this. And here we have the SNES translation of Dragon Quest VI. Again, SNES 9X. And all of these translations of this, 3, I don't know why there's no 4, but 3, 5, and 6 just look gorgeous. I think these just look absolutely amazing. Especially with the nice like little shaders and stuff on here. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I have not really played very far at all in this one. Now I'll show you the DS one. So you're kind of just starting in the same spot. And same idea, Melon DS, all that stuff I was mentioning before. So you can just see kind of the nice difference there. Got the little map above and all that. So now we're on to Dragon Quest VII, and this is the original one for the PlayStation 1. It's always interesting to me that the Dragon Quest V was on PlayStation 2, but this never came there. And so yeah, this is an interesting way to play the game. This is one where there is going to be a brand new version coming out in a few months. I can't remember what that is. It Dragon Quest VII Reimagined? I think that's what it's called. And now that's going to be coming out for PC. It's going to be coming out for Switch. I think Switch. I know Switch 2, but I'm not sure if it'll be coming out for Switch 1. So hopefully it'll work on here. I mean, I think that's kind of a coin flip there. If not, I may end up having to get it for both, buy it on Steam and get it on Switch and see if it runs good on there. We'll see. But let's get out of this nonsense. And here we have the 3DS version, and once you see this, why would you play the PS1 version? This one is just absolutely stunning here. It's absolutely beautiful. Just look at this. And now this is the first 3DS one we've talked about. This is with the Azahar emulator. I'll have a link to the latest there that has the dual screen support. And I think this is running at a 4X. We'll take a look at the settings here. once we get through this a little bit. I just want you to see a little bit of it. Okay, be quiet. Come on. I know what to do. Oh yeah, so she's telling us about the map down there. I mean, this looks absolutely beautiful, this game. I can't wait to play it. Like, this one looks so good, I'm like, I don't know, but I don't know if I need to wait for the new one, but the new one looks even better. Like, it just looks amazing. So anyway, as of now, I mean, this is the latest version of Dragon Quest VII that you can play. So, and I like it. Now let's go look at some settings. So you'll note here, everything that I have is I'm running 𝗗𝗓, but there also is this 𝗗𝗔𝗜𝗦 as well, which I've installed, but I haven't had to use. Now, my understanding is that if you're finding performance lacking in 𝗗𝗓, you can switch to 𝗗𝗓, and that'll be a little bit better performance-wise. But let's take a look here at some settings. Here we go. And so I don't think I really changed much other than, let's see, GPU driver. I'm using system. I didn't use the turnip. I think I played with the turnip and this would crash too much. So the system driver is fine. The other thing here, oopsie. We're going to go into settings, general. Yeah, nothing really changed there. System. Okay, I enabled new 3DS mode. For those of you that are familiar, I just use what Russ told me to do. So Russ is like, you know, he's the guy. Allow applications to change plugin loader state. I think that's by default. Yeah. So anyway, the new 3DS thing, I just enabled that. Graphics, Vulkan graphics. Yeah. And then we're going to set all of these top three are enabled. Internal resolution is set to 4x. I think you can crank it up quite a bit, but why? And then everything else here, disk shader cache is enabled, linear filtering is enabled. Disable right eye render is important because that actually is useless to have it enabled, so you want to disable it. All it does is hurt performance. Async custom texture loading, of course. So all of that stuff is what I have, and I honestly have had zero problems with any 3DS game in 𝗗𝗓. Zero problems. Now, speaking of 3DS, this is Dragon Quest VIII in the 3DS. And so we're going to just take a quick look at this. I had actually played this last year on my iPad. And it was okay, but it was very frustrating after a while. I just did not like playing with that form factor. It actually runs fine, and it's basically, I think, the 3DS version of the game. I'm not really sure about that. But this is very similar to that. And honestly, this looks amazing. Again, this is the 4x rendering resolution here, and you got the little mini map down there, which is cool, I guess. I mean, it's a cool little map. I like having a little touchscreen down there to like manage inventory and stuff while you don't lose sight of the screen there. Can I pick that up? No. But this looks really good. All right, and it's very sharp textures, very nice lines and everything. But I can't tell you, and you guys probably can't see 100%, if this is better or the PlayStation 2 version is better. And now that I've looked at it like right back to back, I'm gonna say the PlayStation 2 one is better. Just slightly. It's something about the textures. Now, I don't have the HD textures in here. I do have the widescreen hack, which is nice. It's a little bit fuller of a screen, not much than the 3DS. But yeah, it is a little bit nicer here. And it's probably even a little better performant. But I mean, that could be fixed with another update to 𝗗𝗓 because the PlayStation 2 emulation is a little bit more mature and developed than 3DS implementations. So yeah, I mean, you got the nice shadow there. And you don't really need, you know, that mini map and all that stuff down there. But they're pretty dang close in terms of, you know, how they look and stuff. Now, there is HD textures for this, and I'm using the Aether SX 2 emulator, the same that I'm using with the translated Dragon Quest V. But there is HD textures, but I think they only work with the Windows version. I don't know, the instructions were a little bit convoluted and seemed to be geared towards, you know, working on Windows. But maybe there's a way to get them to work on Android. I'm not sure. I don't know that you really need to. You'd probably just be taking a performance hit with very little, you know, to gain. So I'm excited to go back to this and kind of revisit it. I was probably halfway through the game, roughly. I'm not sure, maybe not even that much. And play this like in a proper way, not on my iPad. So now we have Dragon Quest IX, which is a game I'm not too familiar with, but this is a game that was actually mostly an online game, from what I understand. And you play kind of like a descendant, sort of angelic being, almost like a god. And then, you come back down to sort of regular Earth, so to speak. And this is on the DS, Melon DS. All the same stuff applies to what I mentioned before when I talked about Dragon Quest IV, V, and VI. But this is apparently really fun and very playable. You don't have to have the whole Street Pass thing going on to make this a worthwhile play. And I'm honestly just kind of in the dark about how this works. But you can play it, and it's a DS only game. This is the only version that ever come out, and it runs really well. This is one, though, just to mention, where I did see a lot of crashing with the older version of Melon DS, which seems to be totally fixed. You can see I'm running at 4x, and no problems at all with this one. Now this is Dragon Quest X, and this is specifically Dragon Quest X offline, and this is the Switch version, which I think is the only version there is. This has had a translation patch applied to it. I'll have links to that below. Now last year I actually played around with like the online version, which you can play offline, and I had that running on my PC. So I actually purchased that one from Square Enix store, from the Japanese store. And there's a whole process to be able to purchase it from there, because it's not really meant to be sold in the US. So I played that and I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. I kind of like this. And it was kind of like a solo MMO, and that's kind of what's going on with this one. This is specifically an offline version, and so far I got way farther than I am here. It's pretty much the same game, but it's like a little chibi form type of thing. And the other one is I play, because you can choose like different characters. It's similar to Dragon Quest IX, where you kind of come from another world or dimension or something, and then you kind of play as a mortal in this realm, so to speak. And it's pretty fun. I chose the one that you like wind up on the beach before as a warrior, I think. And then this one is now you're kind of like an elf wizard, and I think it's pretty cool. So this runs really well. It's a lot of fun, and I'm kind of trying to ignore it and play, my Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. But yeah, you can see this runs really extremely well, and no issues at all running this Switch version. I thought about maybe trying to run that other version in Win but to me it's like, oh, I'd rather just play this, because it's just the amount of headache and stuff involved with trying to get the mod and the translation thing that runs at the same time as your game and all that. This is just, you patch it and you run it and you're good to go, and there's no like funny business with like trying to fake being online and stuff like that. So, oh, I got skill points. All right, well, let's get out of here because I'm gonna make a mistake. So finally, we're to Dragon Quest XI, and this is on Switch, and we'll go take a look at the settings and stuff like that for 10 and 11 here in a minute. But I did try to get my Steam purchase version. Now this is like the S edition, the Switch edition, and the edition I have on Steam is not the one that you can get now, because they came out with like the regular version, and then they came out with like the exclusive S version or something, and it like changed the graphics engine a little bit, and so I don't have the S one to try, but I did try like the original one, and it did not work with I tried with actually Game Hub and Winlator, and neither one of those ran that one. So maybe this S edition, which is like the Switch version, because you can switch between like 2D and this 3D version here, maybe that will work on Winlator, but I'm not buying the game twice. So whatever. But this one works fantastic. So this is great, and I never finished it on Steam. I probably got 20 hours in or so. So like, this is great, like on the go though, because it's like it's Dragon Quest, so it's a pretty like casual kind of lighthearted game. But yeah, so far so good. It runs really, really well. So let's look at some settings here. So we'll take a look at 10. This is in 𝗗𝗦𝗦𝗥𝗦, because that's like my default emulator, and I don't think there's any settings I changed in here. Oh, okay, accuracy level to high. I did change that for 10. VSync is off. Disk shader cache is on. Asynchronous shaders is on. Let's look at audio as auto. I don't have any problems with that. This accuracy level of high thing is kind of necessary for some games because it has that weird bloom effect that goes off unless you turn that on. I mentioned that with the which one was it? I don't remember which game it was. There's another game with the Dragon HD 2D remake. Yeah, that's the problem there. So we'll go into here and then we'll go back up to the top here and we'll look at this just to double check. I don't think I changed really any settings here at all, actually. Yeah, this is just accuracy level normal. Let's go down here. Disk shader cache is on. I think that's by default. And then audio, maybe the auto. Yeah, nothing. So this is nothing. I mean, and again, the default GPU manager is that same 9V2 there. That I just used that. That seems to be like the most compatible driver. So yeah, no problems there. So anyway, that's your mainline Dragon Quest games. So now let's take a look at these two action RPGs. These are both Switch games. So this one, Dragon Quest Treasures. I don't know much about this. It seems almost like a stealth action game. And I'll just say right now, we don't have to go look at it, but this is also accuracy level set to high because this has that same like bloom effect thing that happens in some of the other games. The other game I noticed that did that was like Fantasy Life I was another one that did that. But yeah, so this is like a, I don't know what the heck it is. Shoot those sleeping guys. Terrible aim. I guess it doesn't do anything. But yeah, I haven't quite figured this one out. This looks like a fun little game though. Kind of lighthearted. Now this one is Infinity Strash, Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. I guess this is based on an anime, which I've never watched. But this one is a little bit more my style here. Now this one I did have to change, not anything to do with the graphics, but with the audio. You had to switch it to QDEP. Otherwise, it doesn't play any sound. So here we're getting to the quest. And this is like it's a very strange game. It's got like some cinematics and some animation and things. And then it has like little vignettes of, you know, action gameplay. There, I already fought this guy. So, let's take a look here. Yeah, super action, like fast-paced, all this kind of fun stuff. This one seems more, like I said, more on my alley. I'm just getting lost playing the game. Okay, that's just some random action RPGs. And next we have the two Dragon Quest Builders games, both on Switch and zero configuration. They just worked right out of the box. And so these, if you're not familiar, are like Minecraft style games, although I think they're a little bit more like directed or focused. I'm not really sure. I don't really get into Minecraft stuff, but I will probably give these a shot just to take a look and see. Now, again, these are the Switch versions here. You can get these on Steam, as far as I know. And but I've not tried the Steam one yet. There's no reason to get 2 copies of it. But it worked great on the Switch version here. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff to explore here. Now this one is, you can see it kind of looks like the same engine as the Dragon Quest X. Let's go fight something. And so we'll see the next one. There we go. Yeah, you can see this one. I guess it's not that different. Maybe it's just slightly updated. It looks like a little bit nicer than the other one. This one's a slightly different kind of story and stuff. A little bit of a different setting, more of like a weird undead pirate type of setting. You end up on this beach. But yeah, so these are something I might poke around and check out one day. But I might just delete them to get some space back after this video. But they look interesting. I don't know. Not really my bag, these Minecraft type things. But they do perform fine and they just kind of work right out of the box. Again, using Eden 0.4 for a lot of this stuff, which seems to be really handy. Next, we'll skip the monsters for now. I'll do those last since there's more of those. Let's do the Dragon Quest Mystery Dungeons. Okay, so these are kind of in a weird order. So let's look at these. So the first one here in the list, you can see this is a Game Boy Advance game. This is a translated version. This is actually the third game in the series, which also was on PlayStation 2, but there's no translation for that. And then this one here, this is a Super Nintendo version, also translated. So fan translation, and this is the original one. This is a mystery dungeon developed by some of the guys that also originally made mystery dungeon games all together. Some Pokemon mystery dungeons and some other ones. They worked on Dragon Quest on the NES originally and kind of went and did some of those games and then come back, and now they did a mystery dungeon set in the Dragon Quest universe. And then this is the second game. And this was a PlayStation 1 game. This is actually an English release and plays on the PSX emulator. So let's just take a quick look at these. Let's go to the first one. And so this is a Super Nintendo game, and you can see it's a, it's a roguelike is what it is. Let's go fight something. And this is 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥𝗦. This is a guy you play, and if you watch the Dragon Quest IV section, when I played the DS version, I was on his part of the quest there. And this is the same guy from that world. He's kind of this big bumbly merchant guy. And, they regenerate the dungeon every time you go through and that kind of stuff. And there's some kind of story here. And so all three of these games involve 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥𝗦. 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗠. I don't know how to say it. What is this, a sword or what? A club. Great. Let me equip it. There we go. Let's go beat somebody up. Of course I want to descend. I have a club. I can do what I like. Let's go hit something real quick. With a club. Come on. I'm about to say forget it. Come on, there's got to be somebody to hit. There we go. There we go. I'm satisfied. So the first one was there on the Super Nintendo. The second one is on PlayStation 1. This is a little bit of the story mode. Just to kind of give you a sense of the graphics and stuff. So this is the same idea. I'm not going to show you any combat or anything. A little memory here. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, so this is a Game Boy Advance game. This is a translation again. I use the MGBA emulator through RetroArch, and so that seems to work really well. Nothing special with it. I got some different LCD shaders and stuff loaded, but yeah, I haven't played around with this one too much. But again, this is the third game in the series, so I'm excited to actually kind of try this one because I like playing Game Boy Advance games on here because it's got a nice, just fits the screen nicely. Okay. So finally, we're on the Dragon Quest monster games, and some of these are actually remixed. So let's look at the original. Okay, so this is a Game Boy Color game, and you get a little troop of monsters. It's kind of like Dragon Quest version of Pokemon, right? And this one I played through a little bit, and it's I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm not really into Pokemon, but for some reason this one was like, I was like, oh, these are kind of cool. And this is another thing that kind of gave me the idea for it. I was like, well, I kind of like these. So maybe we should just do a video on these. So this is the first one, and you play as Terry. And here we're just gonna have him fight with this awesome combat screen. So anyway, that's the first one there. But let's look at the remake. So here's the remake, and it's a 3DS remake, which is really cool. And this looks really, really nice. Here I'm in the monster farm, so there's not a lot of stuff going on here. But you can see, it just is like, compared to what we were just looking at, this is a really cool, implementation of the play. So we'll just take a quick look here at the second game, which there's actually two of. Hold on. So if we take a look here, they tried to do the whole Pokemon game thing where they have kind of like 3 different versions of the same game. So this is Dragon Warrior Monsters 2 Kobe's Journey, and here is Terra's Adventure. Okay, and so you fire these up, and they play very similar. I played a little bit of these, and it's got the same, as the original original Monsters game with the Game Boy Color thing. So I don't know, looks okay. But we also have the 3DS version, and I forgot to mention, the 3DS versions are translated versions of the game. These original Game Boy Color ones are, you know, English by default, but these are actually translated patches that you have to apply to the ROM. And again, we're at a similar place on the beach, just like we were with the last one. So it's the same idea. So I think when I play through them, I don't know, I kind of like the Game Boy Color look for some reason, but I don't know. I don't know that I'll even play through these, but we'll see. I'll give them a shot. Here we go. Here's some combat. See, I like having that screen down there. There you go. Get him. This looks very odd how they're so far away from each other. I don't really like how that looks. Okay, so there's those two. Now there's a little bit of an interlude because there's kind of like a sub-series in this, the Joker series. But there is a Game Boy Advance game here, and this is a translation. See, Dragon Quest Monsters Caravan Heart. So we'll take a look here again, just MGBA, no big deal. Don't really understand how this fits into the whole plot of things, but it's there, and you can get the translated version, just mentioning it. Now this is Joker. This is the first one in the Joker series. These look kind of interesting because they're kind of, I don't know. I think there's some kind of thread through these because this is the first one. It's a 2DS game. Again, run Melon DS. There we go. So like I was saying, if anybody wants me to do Metroid or Castlevania or I don't know, Zelda, probably the video will get demonetized or something. I don't care about demonetization. I just don't want to get a strike on my video. But Metroid's first party too, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever. I could probably get away with it. It's just informational, right? Anyway, so this is the first Joker one. So we'll take a look at the second one. Here we go. Oh, that's right. I have this bag with me. This one looks more like a 2DS game for some reason. It's got that kind of graininess to the top screen. Good job, Jasper. Okay. I'm glad I have your approval. All right, so look at the next one. Now, this one is Joker 3 Professional. So there was a Joker 3 and then a Professional. All of those were Japanese only. So this is a translation of Joker 3 Professional, which just adds some extra bells and whistles on top of the original game. So you can see here, this is like a whole other level of, you know, graphical fidelity than the others. This one looks really nice. But similar idea. And then final game is the Dragon Quest Monsters Dark Prince. And this is actually, I think, actually a prequel to Dragon Quest IV. So I actually picked this one up on Steam. Now this is the Switch version because I could not get the other one to work in GameHub. So this one here is, you know, just the same idea as the others. I mean, much better looking. This doesn't look far off at all from the PC version. I mean, I can't even tell the difference between them. And it runs perfectly fine. No extra settings or mods or anything. It just worked right out of the box. So yeah, that is the last game in the series. And like I said, if you want to see me do a Metroid or Castlevania or some other series you can think of, I know somebody I talked to today was mentioning Fire Emblem. I haven't played any Fire Emblem games other than dinking around with them a little bit. So I'd have to educate myself on that a little bit. But I think all those would be good. And like I said, the Zelda series, you could play everything on from that all the way up through to the current stuff. From the beginning, and that'll, you know, you can do it, trust me. And yeah, so anyway, I'm super happy to dive back into Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D, get through that, and then I'll probably play through Dragon Quest 4 a little bit, and then when 7 comes out again with the reimagine thing next year, I'm really excited to play that too, and then finish Dragon Quest 5 as well. And then eventually I'll get back to 8 and 11 and all that stuff. And 10 and 9 and 6. So anyway, thank you.